Cinemassacre's Monster Madness, a tribute to Roger Corman. Happy Halloween! As you know, we've been paying tribute to Roger Corman this month, remembering all the great films and inspiration he's given us, and for all the careers that he helped start. Today I chose something that might seem off the beaten path, but is actually very special in many ways. It's the perfect choice to bring Halloween, horror TV marathons, and Roger Corman all together, and it's also celebrating an anniversary. 25 years ago on Halloween weekend, Roger Corman hosted AMC's MonsterFest and premiered an exclusive made-for-TV film, The Phantom Eye.
Stay tuned for more of Roger Corman's The Phantom Eye.
As you may know, TV programming is one of my most cherished nostalgic pastimes. Long before the convenience of streaming and having instant access to movies, you would either have to rent it from the video store or wait for it to come on TV. You'd flip through that TV guide and see what movies were playing that week. So whenever there would be a horror marathon of any kind, it was a chance to not only see some films that you haven't seen, but to record them on your VCR, thus adding it to your tape collection. I actually still have my MonsterFest '99 tapes. They aren't in the best condition, but it still serves as a memento of one of the biggest weekends of classic horror films that I ever managed to record.
You're watching AMC's MonsterFest, the biggest scare ever.
It didn't even dawn on me until now that I've talked about TNT's Monster Vision, but I don't think I've ever mentioned MonsterFest. This was a time when AMC stood for American Movie Classics, and that's what they used to show, only classic films, unedited and with no commercials. It wasn't until 2001 when they added commercials and eventually stopped showing classics in favor of modern films. So MonsterFest '99 was one of the last great marathons of this kind that I remember being there for personally.
This year, AMC wanted something big for the biggest MonsterFest ever, so we asked legendary horror director Roger Corman to deliver his most diabolical creation yet. Who? Himself.
MonsterFest '99 lasted 48 hours with 39 films total. That was a very generous offering. It kicked off at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Friday the 29th, with the documentary Attack of the 50-Foot Monster Mania. Then they showed a bunch of 50s monster films like It Conquered the World, The She-Creature, The Amazing Colossal Man, War of the Colossal Beast, Earth vs. the Spider, The Giant Gila Monster, Reptilicus, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, The Giant Behemoth, and Gorgo. By noon on Saturday, they had a 10-movie Godzilla-thon, including the 90s Godzilla films, which may have been the first time they ever aired on North American TV. There were also other kaiju like Frankenstein Conquered the World, War of the Gargantuous, Rodan, and Gamera. By midday Halloween, they played Conga, The Crawling Eye, The Land That Time Forgot, Valley of Gwangi, and by 8 p.m. Halloween night, they began a Vincent Price marathon, House on Haunted Hill, Pit in the Pendulum, Abominable Dr. Phibes, Phibes Rises Again, and they finished it all off with The Tingler, which ended right about the crack of dawn on November 1st. So where does Roger Corman come in? Well, as I said, he would drop by between the movies and talk a little bit about them, tell some trivia or some personal stories. And this was the first time I actually learned about Roger Corman. I knew his name from the credits of all those old monster movies, but I never even knew what he looked like until then. So it was kind of surreal having a face to put on all those films. Throughout the broadcast, they kept hyping up The Phantom Eye.
This Halloween, watch Roger Corman's The Phantom Eye, a world's premier horror film so big and scary we have to show it to you in 35 pieces.
It was serialized in 35 parts, so each part played in between the other movies. It was a pretty cool concept and something I don't think you'd ever see on TV today. And for anyone who wasn't a total insomniac and tuned in the entire weekend to catch every single installment of The Phantom Eye, they replayed it in its entirety at midnight before going back to the Vincent Price marathon. The Phantom Eye is not at all a serious horror film. It's a very lighthearted spoof of the whole genre, very tongue-in-cheek, very self-aware. The plot is just a gimmicky excuse to string together a bunch of random horror scenes in different styles, and for what it is, it's very entertaining.
Don't miss a single episode all Halloween weekend on AMC's MonsterFest.
Sometimes I even scare myself.
It begins with two film students, Joey and Catherine, who are doing an internship with Roger Corman, who's going by the name Dr. Gorman. He's in the middle of hosting AMC's MonsterFest and needs to show a movie called The Phantom Eye at midnight, but the film somehow got lost somewhere in the studio's archives. So he asks the interns to go into the vaults to find it. And they have until midnight.
Yes, The Phantom Eye. By midnight.
But once they get going, Dr. Gorman traps them separately inside of different horror movies. So Joey is inside of a Dracula movie from what appears to be the Hammer era.
Color. 1950s. Hammer Studios.
And Catherine's inside of a film in the style of Corman's Poe series. Gorman tells them that in order to escape, they're going to have to use their knowledge of films.
Think of it as a test of your cinematic knowledge.
It's not clear exactly what they need to do, but it seems they just have to outsmart the movie, which means being a wise ass and calling out all the cliches.
The girl being followed by the monster never gets attacked until she looks back and sees it!
After they succeed, they're each placed into another film. Joey ends up in some killer plant movie. He spends most of the time trapped in a room with an old guy who's kind of dressed like Freddy Krueger. Yeah, that one really threw me off. I thought it was going to be a Nightmare on Elm Street knockoff, but it's actually about a killer plant.
We're not English. It's not The Woman Eater or Little Shop of Horrors because we're in color. It's not the remake of Little Shop of Horrors because, well, we're not singing.
So the old guy, it just so happens, is played by Frank Gorshin.
Them things, they're still out there.
So it's almost like seeing the Riddler as Freddy. Catherine ends up in a black and white dubbed movie with an old witch and a killer doll man. Then Joey ends up in some kind of outer space movie from the 50s and 60s. Next, Catherine's transported into a silent film where she's being preyed upon by some kind of Phantom of the Opera type villain. Then Joey ends up in some kind of beach movie where a Gillman type creature stalks the shores.
There is no way you can kill me in this scene.
Catherine goes into a mummy movie, specifically reminiscent of the 1940s Universal Mummy sequels.
Kill, I say! Kill her!
This is my favorite segment, as it's very clear what it is they're imitating. Next, Catherine appears on the beach, reuniting with Joey, and they have to escape the monster together.
Find you!
Oh, shoot! That's Joey! Take the wall!
Also, very randomly, there's a character who steals a lot of screen time and is later revealed as the villain behind the whole thing.
He isn't an expository character. He's not comic relief. And he's in every other scene. He's the secret bad guy.
It doesn't make any sense. Does he control the monster or what? But anyway, this guy is the most memorable actor in the whole film. His name is Michael J. Anderson, and it seems he's best known for Twin Peaks.
He also played the Devil Doll in your Next City horror film, Miss Winters.
Also, one of the detectives in this same segment is played by old-time Corman regular Jonathan Hayes from Little Shop of Horrors. The whole thing wraps up in the cheesiest way possible, and for a movie like this, you wouldn't expect anything more or less. Joey and Catherine appear back in the TV studio, and Joey breaks the fourth wall and tells us the Phantom Eye is the audience.
The eye of the audience. The phantom eye that's been watching us from the very beginning.
Then for good measure, Gorman unleashes the monsters and kills them while smirking to the camera.
Good evening.
For an hour-long made-for-TV film that was only meant to be seen on one given weekend as bonus programming to a horror marathon, I'd say it's pretty cool. It's a nice quick tour through horror history, a little silly, but entertaining nevertheless. When it comes to TV marathons, MonsterFest 99 was the best of the best. And that same weekend, if you flipped over to TNT, there was a Monster Vision too. Saturday night was Carrie, Child's Play 2, Phantasm, Phantasm 2, and House of Wax. And Sunday, Halloween night, was a special Joe Bob Briggs presentation of In the Mouth of Madness, and also The Fear and the Fog played after. It had special guests Rhonda Shear of USA's Up All Night and Joe Flaherty, best known as Count Floyd. I'm sad to say that Joe Flaherty also passed away this year on April 1st, so may he be remembered as well. His portrayal of Count Floyd is one of the funniest hosts I ever knew, and he's always brought a smile to my face. So, that Halloween weekend of 1999 was a blast. It was the last great horror broadcast of the 90s, and it's safe to say they don't make TV like that anymore. MonsterFest soon rebranded to FearFest and showed only censored slashers afterwards. Though in recent years, with the decline of cable TV, they really knocked it out of the park with their streaming service, Shudder, and that gave a new home to Joe Bob Briggs with The Last Drive-In. So horror marathons still live on. I also try to do my best to do my part to keep these memories alive through Monster Madness. I hope it adds a little extra Halloween spirit to your day. Final words, we miss Roger Corman, but we thank him for all the films he's left us. So let's light a jack-o'-lantern to him. Happy Halloween.
And now I must bid you good night and goodbye. This has been AMC's MonsterFest.